Our Roots podcast. We're only the strongest roots. See the light. Brought to you by Botanica Candles and More. This is Joseph Baba Ifa. Really excited about this episode of Faces of Ifa on the podcast, where one of our members is taking advantage of the opportunity to be on the show to tell their story. Please join me in welcoming Jennifer Omi Yoko.
Good morning. Thank you. Thank you so much for the blessings, Olofing, Olorun, and Olorumare. I'd like to start the podcast off with a prayer, Baba, if that's okay with you.
Absolutely. It's your birthday weekend. How could I say no?
Right? What a gift. What a gift. I'm on Our Roots podcast. Like, there's no other birthday gift that could be more blessed than this one. So I'd like to start a
Awesome.
prayer this morning. So, Oromila, witness of faith. Second to Olorumare. Your healings are more effective than any medicine. Many blessings that you have brought into our life. We hear, we give thanks today, thanks to our ancestors, thanks to the shoulders that they stand upon, thanks to the stream of ancestral wisdom, thanks to all those who guide us on our path. 𝗃𝗃𝗃𝗃 Oromila 𝗃. Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful. I tell you, Orumila has some of the best poetry. You know, you hear about his praise names and the literature that they incorporate for him, and you know, it's nothing short of sublime. But Jen, I ask you just to start things off. Where are you from, so people can kind of get an idea of who we are as we delve deeper?
I am, by the way, of the Bronx, New York, but I am a resident of West Palm, Florida right now.
Very nice, very nice. What part of the Bronx?
I grew up on Webster Avenue and 169th Street till I was about 15 years old. And then from 15 to about, I would say 21, Gun Hill and White Plains. So I'm a
Awesome.
true Bronx Knight.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. I tell you, I don't know what it is about this borough. Its people gravitate to me. I'm married to a Bronx woman. I'm surrounded by gentlemen from the Bronx. I love you guys, and the bacon, egg, and cheese is unmatched.
Well, we receive you. We love you back, Baba.
I appreciate it. I can't wait to go uptown again and visit some family and enjoy myself. But I ask you, what was it like growing up in New York? In your experience.
In my experience growing up in New York, at the time that I grew up in New York, I would say that it was a lot safer than what it is now. I got to blend in with so many different cultures and variations of life forms while growing up in New York. Can't say it was the easiest. Definitely grew up in rough parts of New York City, I mean, the Bronx itself. Made it through by the grace of God. That's how I know that there's something higher guiding me in this life right now, and the reason that I'm sitting here doing this podcast. It wasn't short of a easy a easy lifestyle, but I don't think that I would have the character and the person who I am today if I didn't grow up in the Bronx itself.
With whatever you feel comfortable with expressing, what were some of the things you were seeing or that possibly you experienced that had that impact of or message to you, like, I need to survive here? Because you have New York, and the Bronx is kind of its own thing. It's its own organism. I can't say that there's another part of the city that's really like it, and every corner, every turn that anything could happen. So what were some of the things that you saw or experienced that really molded you think?
I have quite a few stories. What I will say is that I'm 44 years old and I grew up in the crack era, right? So I didn't
Yeah.
live in the safest place. I grew up in the projects. And there are quite a few stories that I can remember. There was one specifically, I had to be maybe probably 8 or 9 years old. And my mom was taking me to school in the morning. And we'd always go to this bus stop, and the bus stop was right in front of a gas station. And that particular morning, it was raining, and someone decided to drive by, or I guess they had spotted an individual that they were looking for and start shooting.
Oh
So my
wow.
mom has to pull me in back of a soda machine, and literally we have to throw ourselves on the ground in the rain. So just those type of instances are where life could have been taken at any given moment. But for some particular reason, there was always a higher force that was protecting me and my family to be able to get out of those type of situations. So that's just one of many, many stories that I have living in the Bronx. And I am grateful that I lived there, because I'm not who I am, because I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't have those experiences, but it just makes me appreciate life a lot more now and understand that those things that were transpiring were signs for me to know that there was something higher guiding me at that time. But in life, you have to go through hardships and lessons to be able to have the moment of gratitude that you have once you receive the blessing. So that's one story, but there's a lot, Baba, and I don't want to have share too many more, but that's just one instance where it was like, wow, I grew up in a really rough neighborhood.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with that one, that pretty much gets the point across of where you are. Luckily, you're here, and it just makes you realize how fickle life is and how we have to protect ourselves. I think anybody that makes it out of New York has a guardian angel because it's just so much going on sometimes, and especially now. You hear about things back then. I guess even that instance was a little more calculated because at least they were looking for someone, and whatever transpired between them. Now it's just it's the wild wild west to a certain degree. So definitely you gotta be spiritually protected to move around in a place like that somehow. So you mentioned your youth. Before we get into for your fulfillment ultimately as an Orisha priestess, what were some of the things you were experiencing spiritually as a young lady? Were you seeing things? Were you feeling things?
Yes. Actually, from the age of 1 to 7, I am a seeker of knowledge, so I like to do a lot of research, and I have a Rolodex of information in my mind. So I know up until the age of 7, you're still floating around in that realm where you're able to connect with, your spirits, ancestors, whatever you want to call them. And I was the only child up until 8, but I remember my parents always coming into the room like, Jennifer, what are you doing? Who are you talking to? Oh, my imaginary friends. So I had tons of them at that time, not understanding that I was actually connecting with other entities and other spirits. So I had lots of imaginary friends as a child. I definitely have visions. I get a lot of messages through my dreams all the time, still to this day. So I always knew inside and felt inside of me that there was something different and something special about me. But that actually didn't resonate till I was in my mid 30s, honestly. But I did have little effects of, hey, there's something different about me by being able to connect and seeing certain things, hearing things, feeling things.
Now, when you're showing these symptoms, how is it being received by your family? And, were you from a background where some of these things were accepted, or was it completely foreign to you guys? What was that experience like with your home?
So we're Puerto Ricans from the Bronx. So that's, say the less, there's some
There you
type of
go.
spirituality that comes along with being a Hispanic living in the Bronx, right? What was wild is that I went to Catholic school from first grade to 12th grade.
Well,
And we weren't true like going to church every Sunday, but we would go on, New Year's, probably Palm Sunday, the more holiday, you would say, masses. But my family practiced certain aspects of spirituality, and I would say even some of Ifa, but no one was ever initiated. So, we would go and do baños every New Year's Eve. My aunt, which is truly spiritual woman, I seek information and knowledge from her till this day, would make special baths for us every New Year's Eve. I remember my mom one time kicking a coconut around the house. We had this woman that we would go to that lived, I don't remember where in the Bronx, but her name was Doña Ana. We would go get readings and we would practice certain elements of spirituality, but no one was ever formally indoctrinated or initiated into Ifa or being a Lukumi high priestess.
okay, definitely. Now, do you remember like that first experience? Like maybe they took you somewhere, or oh my God, we just went to a 𝗲𝗲𝗍𝗏. What was that? What was that first impactful experience where you're like, man, this is interesting, or I might like this?
First of all, walking into a botanical till this day for me is like a circus. Like it's
Yeah.
amazing. I fall in love every single time. So I do remember going into there as a kid and just being like fascinated by seeing all of the statues and then the herbs and just everything around it. Every time I would get into that space, I felt like it always felt at home. Like I felt like, wow, I belong in this space. And I would just be fascinated walking through the aisles. I remember going with my mom and my aunt, and it would be picking up things. And I was always a kid that would ask questions, but why? And I needed an explanation behind it. So that experience right there alone was one that was impactful for me. But I think the second one would be when how old was I? I probably was 18. And I started dating an individual, and I just had a lot of questions. And of course, as a young woman, and a lot of women, we do this. We go to get readings when it comes to love. So I go and I get a reading by this woman. This is my first actual reading, and I sit in front of her, and she's using the tarot cards, and it blew my mind, and it still blows my mind to this day, Baba, how you sit in front of a person who doesn't know you, knows nothing about you, and can read your whole entire life right in front of you. That right there for me was eye-opening, and that actually changed my life after going to get a reading. I became a lot more aware. I felt like at that point at 18, I was like, wow, this is a cheat code for life. Like, actually, I can go and prepare myself for certain things that may be taking place or things that are taking place and know how to maneuver around them or even avoid them.
Yeah, so impactful stuff. I mean, at what point then, after you go through set amount of spiritual readings, experiences, confirmations, do you say, I want to get formally involved with what you found out was Ifa? At what point did you make that decision, like, I want my mano orula?
That happened. I was at the lowest point of my life when that happened. I had just moved to Delaware. I have a 20 and 22-year-old. At that time, they were teenage years, and I wanted to get them out of the Bronx to live, a more safer life, suburban life. So I moved to Delaware. We had friends that were down there. I go to Delaware, and that's when my entire life changed. I think getting out of the city and being around all that noise and congestion, and there's not enough nature, and the energy is just very toxic. And I was out in the middle of nowhere where there were cornfields and farms, and they didn't even have sidewalks. You had to drive wherever you were going, and I was just surrounded by nature. And it's when I got to Delaware where I started to I thought I was going crazy because I was seeing things, I was hearing things, I was feeling things. I started to become in tune with nature. I was picking up a lot of number frequencies, catching certain numbers every single day. And I remember reaching out to my family. I'm like, either I'm going through depression or I'm losing my mind, so I'm going to disconnect. So I disconnected from them, meaning that when I'm not going to talk every day, we won't text every day. I'm okay, but I need to separate myself because I don't want you guys to feel the effect of what's going on with me. And that's when I started sneaking knowledge, seeking information. I started tapping into numerology, astrology, zodiac signs. I studied brain waves. I started playing certain frequencies at nighttime to help me because I didn't know what was going on. There was something that was missing. I just felt like there was something missing in my life. I started I watched The Secret, Law of Attraction, speaking things of existence, yoga, meditations, crystals. And then one day I stumbled across I should use better words than stumble. I feel that spirit guided me at that point and was on YouTube. I was a YouTube junkie. And I found a video of, rest in peace, this really well-renowned Santero named 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗏𝗃. And he was talking about having faith. And he talked about a stick where you can place a stick anywhere you want. But when you have faith and belief in that stick, you will see that things start to change in your life. And that video blew my mind. And I started doing more research on Lukumi and Ifa. And I remember listening to a playlist. I think it was Oshun at that time. I was infatuated with her. Like, I found out who she was. I started researching her, and I was just going and delving deep into finding information on her. And I'm playing a Oshun playlist. And I look out of the side of my door, and there's a hallway that leads to where my kids' room is. And I see a heavyset woman with a yellow skirt, white top, and a white head wrap. And I look twice. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. I'm seeing people. Like, at that point, I'm thinking I'm going crazy. I'm seeing people. So that happens. Then I go downstairs, same day, to the kitchen. I go to get something to drink, and I see white smoke coming out of a table. So now I'm like, I'm losing my freaking mind. So I call my mom, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on at this point. I need help. Like, I had all these series of unfortunate events that were happening to me, just left and right. I'm getting hurt, just a bunch of things. And she's like, that's it. Come to New York. I'm taking you to get a reading. Your dad has a friend that knows someone, and we're going to take you to this person. So I drive from Delaware to New York, and I think I'm going to a botanica because that's what I'm used to, or to someone's house to get a reading through tarot cards. I show up to this house, and I don't know what I'm walking into, and I meet for the first time ever a 𝗵𝗶𝗍𝗍. I didn't know what a 𝗵𝗶𝗍𝗍 was at that point. And he invites me in. He has me sit down in front of him. I have to put my head down. I have to kiss the mat, the 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗏. He sits in front of me. I remember him giving me 2 stones in my hands. And he's just asking me, he's speaking a different language. At this point, I didn't know what Yoruba was or Lukumi. So he's speaking different languages. I'm giving him, each hand. And he sits down. He's like, all right, we're done. And this man read my entire life and everything that was happening at that given moment. And it blew my mind. Blew my mind. Just told me everything. You're suffering from depression. Your hair is falling out. You're not eating. You're not sleeping. Like everything that was going on in my life at that moment. And I couldn't believe that that was happening. That's the day that I fell in love with Ifa. And I'm so grateful for that moment, because Ifa has changed my entire life. I wouldn't even say a whole 180, 360. And I also want to touch on something. Yesterday, when I was coming back from the hotel, I noticed that there was a building and it said 555. And I'm like, wow, I'm always seeing these sequences. 555 means change. There's change coming. Baba, the lights on the building were yellow and green.
Oh,
There's
wow.
no coincidence on those things. You can't tell me that. Like Ifa was telling me right there at that moment, oh, you thought your life was changed. You thought your life changed. I'm literally 30 days out of being a 𝗃𝗏𝗍𝗏, and the trajectory of what's been taking place in my life ever since I've done that it's pronounced. I can't even get the words out. So even sitting here on this podcast with you, speaking from my heart with passion and intent, and just delivering messages for those who may need them or may not need them, but just even for me, I can't even explain it. So Ifa is the best thing that has ever happened to me. And I am so grateful and so honored to have been chosen to be able to continue to have their religion grow, the legacy, and keeping the integrity of this religion.
Absolutely, as we appreciate you. How was your Hand of Ifa experience?
I walked into something I had no idea what I was going into. I remember showing up not knowing that I shouldn't wear certain colors. So I show up with a black leather jacket, a black shirt.
Oh,
I have
man.
all black on, right? You're not supposed to wear black when you're doing ceremonies, but I didn't know what I was getting into. So I remember getting there and I was told, have a seat in this chair and face the wall. I'm like, I am a grown woman and I'm facing a wall. But I did it. And Ifa has taught me discipline, and it has taught me humility, because that's what it's for. And I remember just sitting there and I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm just going to do this. My sister accompanied me. Actually, after I got initiated, my baby sister got initiated 6 months later, and my sister got initiated a year later.
Nice.
So we actually are the first people in our family to be indoctrinated and initiated in the religion. And we've been told that we're going to keep the legacy alive in our lineage and our bloodline. Like, how cool is that? Who gets chosen to keep a religion that has been here from the beginning of time, to keep that bloodline going through me and my sisters? So I'm sitting there, I don't know what's going on, and now they're like, they're getting ready to sacrifice the animal. For me, I'm a vegan. I don't eat animals. That was very hard to digest.
No pun intended.
That's not my favorite part, but I've also learned to understand the purpose behind it. So I remember telling the Babala, I'm like, yeah, he was like, turn around. You don't have to look at it if you don't want to. And that's what I did. So the first year I kept my back turned for sacrifices. So the sacrifices would take the first day that took place. And I remember the next day having to come. Now I'm prepared. I'm in my all white. But that ceremony is very tedious and very long. And there were probably 5 other people receiving with me.
Wow.
So I just remember they're sitting there and just having to be patient. And what I did at that time is that when I was facing the wall, I prayed. I prayed for hours and hours and hours. And all praise to the Most High. But everything so far that I've been praying for, because I practice the true virtue of Ifa, and that's being a good character, is manifesting. And this is one of the moments for me that I've manifested through just believing and following the word of Oru and Oromila.
No, I commend you definitely, especially, the vegan lifestyle is a beautiful one. But there's aspects of it that obviously aren't compatible with Ifa because, no one can be born without blood, right? So it is a big hurdle to overcome. And, I think about my mother. I remember when my mother first got into this spirituality, she had a serious issue with the animal sacrifice, because it's just something that they weren't accustomed to. And, she has I don't know if it's funny or not, but she has a story of, because, they lived in Brooklyn and they actually used to go to like, the kosher, like poultry spots and things like that, where you pick the chicken you wanted to eat that evening. And she said she had an experience where she saw the rabbi do his thing and it was just too much for her to handle. And it carried with her throughout life to where now we're right back in this similar, arena. And it took her some time, and she was able to get over it as well, what I'm saying, especially with the explanation and just the thoroughness with which we were working. But it is a hurdle. Was Yemaya on your radar when it came to guardian orishas? Did you ask for her? Did somebody else ask for her? What was that process like when they were pulling out your guardian angel?
I love that. I love that question. As I mentioned earlier, I thought Chun was my mom. I was
Mm,
so like everything about her embodied who I thought I was. But what I can say is that as a kid, I've always had a love for the ocean and the beach. That is my safe haven. Anytime that I'm feeling low, or anytime that I need energy, anytime that I'm feeling happy, I'm at the beach. During that time in Delaware, where I was going through a lot in life and I thought I was suffering from depression, I would go to the beach for hours at end. I remember watching the sunset and the moon rising. That's how long I would stay at the beach. And I started to do research as well. My birthday is 7, which is Yemaya's number, and I was born on a Saturday, which is her day. So when I go to get to find out who my guardian angel is, I don't say Oshun. I say Yemaya. And it came out exactly Yemaya on the first try. I
wow.
don't know she must have taken over my vocal cords, because I was going to say Oshun and I said Yemaya. And right then and there, when I found out that she was my guardian angel, that's another moment in life where Mafere Funya Maya, she's everything to me. She has also been a saving grace in my life. I don't want to get emotional, but I have a very strong love and connection for Yemaya, and I owe her everything as well. Everything that's in my life that has taken place up until this point, and everything that she has planned for me in the future, is because of her. And I wouldn't choose any other guardian angel to be my guardian angel than Yemaya.
Yemaya's the best. I mean, I was very blessed. In the hand of Ifa, I was actually the 𝗀𝗲𝗍𝗃. And the 𝗀𝗲𝗍𝗃, especially the son of Oshun, receives the blessing from the children of Yemaya. And the woman that actually crowned me is a daughter of Yemaya, my godmother, 𝗀𝗲𝗍𝗃. May Ifa bless her wherever she is at this moment. And I honestly, Yemaya is one of those orishas, man. She just gives, gives, gives. You just stay on good terms, and you really don't have to do much to be in her good favor. I tell you, you definitely don't want to be out of favor with her. But that usually doesn't happen unless you just do something so off the wall. But most people don't. You now have this beautiful guardian orisha. You have this beautiful odu. What are the conversations or thoughts going through your mind or happening after your hand of Ifa that are possibly leading to priesthood now? What were they telling you that kind of sparked that within you?
I received my kofa and my guerreros, and I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't know what I walked into. I'm going to be completely honest. I remember going home and I'm like, oh my God, I have these things. What do I do with them? Right. So I'm servicing them. At this point, I don't have any faith or belief in Ifa. Right. I don't know what I'm doing. I walked into something. I just knew that I was chosen for this. So, okay, we're going to figure this out. Right. Because that's who I am. I'm a seeker of knowledge. So now I start diving into doing some more research. And I learned at that point that this has nothing to do with research. You're going to have to figure out how to have faith and belief. And this is where Elegua comes in, ma fe fun Elegua. He comes in. He is literally my best friend in this religion. He's sitting right next to me right now while I'm talking to you, just so you're aware. Nice. Like, he is the reason that I believe in this religion. There are so many stories. He's opened so many doors and closed so many doors for me, but there's a specific story that I'd like to share. And I remember, let's say, I was probably about 7 months into being an 𝗃𝗶𝗍𝗶 and being in Ifa. I'm servicing, I'm praying. I don't see any change. I'm like, what did I get into? Nothing's changing. Like, my life is still the same. I don't know what's going on. So 𝘃𝗀𝗃𝗃 comes in and is like, okay, great. So now it's time for me to get on my job and make sure that you believe in us and what we're going to do for you. So I have this, I don't know, I'm pretty sure you're aware with this, being from the Bronx and being Hispanic. So anybody that has a grandmother, aunt, or uncle, Hispanic, you're going to wear 𝗃𝗶𝗍𝗶.
Sure,
right?
From the moment you're born, pretty much.
From the moment you're born, right? And you're also going to have a necklace that has an evil eye on it.
Definitely.
That's like requirement. So I'm wearing this evil eye necklace that I've had for, I don't even know how many years. Nice. Forever. There it goes. Yes. And I noticed that is missing, but the necklace is still intact. So I'm like, oh my God. And now, with that, there's like, oh my ojo, somebody's doing something bad to you. You lost a pendant, or it served its purpose.
Sure. So
I'm like, my mind is like, oh man, like, I have enough things going on in life. I don't need this. I don't need somebody trying to do something. So I try to like block it out. So this thing is missing for months, Baba, months, where I completely just blocked it out, forgot about it. And I remember going to work one morning, and the pendant is the driver's door on the ground. Something told me to look down, and it's sitting there intact. Nothing's broken on it. I don't know how it got off the necklace. It was just there, and I pick it up. I said, oh my God. And I had 𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃 with me because I take him everywhere. Anybody that knows me, 𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃 goes everywhere with me. He goes with me to work. If I'm going on a date with a man that I don't know yet, he's going with me. Listen, I'm at the beach.
The big brother.
He's going with me to the beach. He is literally, I'm telling you, he's my rider. He's my best friend. I see the pendant, and I remember calling my sister. And I'm like, oh my God, this is real. This thing that we got into, this is real. And I show her the pendant. And I knew that 𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃 was a trickster. And I know that he likes to kind of test and push you to see. And after that moment, I said, this thing here is going to change our lives. All we have to do is continue to have faith and belief, and really just do our due diligence with these Orishas, make sure that we service them, make sure that we acknowledge them, make sure that we know that we give them all the appreciation, thanks, and offerings. And as long as you do that and you're a good character, they're not going to give you what you want, but they're going to give you what you need, and they know what you need.
Yes.
And that story right there, that's when I was like, Ifa is real. This is real. And that's when the floodgate started to open up. I mean, things started happening that I have stories for days, that I'm so blessed that my sister was there to accompany with me so that she can testify, because you would think I'm a crazy lady with the stories that I would tell you. You wouldn't believe them. I'm like, this can't just be real. So that's basically where I started to really have faith and belief in Ifa and its practices through Elegua, my best friend.
Nice. Definitely. 𝗃𝗀𝗃𝗃 is the man. Everybody has an Elegua story just because he's so miraculous, and he puts us through the ringer to be able to get there, but he always pulls through. Now, after this faith-building moment, you have your hand of Ifa. What was the crowning process like, leading up to it and actually going through it?
The most beautiful experience I've ever had, and I would do it 1,000,000 times over.
Nice.
So now I'm in Ifa. Actually, it wasn't my choice. I had gotten a reading, and Yemaya basically was like, if you don't crown, I'm going to literally make you go crazy mentally. And I didn't understand the reason why she said that until now that I've been crowned. So she was preparing me, and she needed to push my purpose in life a little quicker, because I got crowned last year. It took me 43 years to get where I'm at, to be crowned. And she was like, oh, we need to make this go a little bit faster, because I have a purpose and I have a plan for you. So I get the reading done, and I'm like, okay, what does that mean? So now they start to explain to me what crowning is. And I'm like, I have to lose my hair for a year.
Oh
Like
man.
that is like
That's the same
any
reaction from women, like the
woman, right,
hair.
Baba? Any woman that goes into is like, oh my God, I have to lose my hair. So I start thinking about that, but then I'm also like, this is very honoring because I'm going to be the first person in my family to do this. And that was a lot of weight on my shoulders. So you know the saying, they say heavy is the head that wears the crown.
Sure.
So I am now I'm like, okay, great. So what is this? What is this income? But what do we have to do? And then they start talking figures. And I'm like, well, I don't know where this money is gonna come from. I am, Baba, when I say I'm broker than broke, like, listen, right? I just got into E5. Things are still not shaking and moving the way they're supposed to. But I'm like, I don't know where I'm gonna come up with this money. So that's where also another E5 story takes place. I normally get readings the last 2 weeks of the year so to know what I'm going into in the following year.
Nice. Good
So I
habit.
get a reading, and Odula says, at this point, I'm living in Delaware. Odula says, be careful with your job. And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? I'm on vacation. I always take the last 2 weeks of December off on vacation because at that time my children were in high school and they play sports. So I need to be able to go to tournaments because I'm going to be that parent that's there supporting you to watch you throughout these endeavors. So my manager texts me, and it's very odd. The text, like, oh, can you come in on Monday? We have a special project. And I read into it. I said, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. I was like, I'm going to lose my job. Like, this reading actually was real. I'm going to lose my job. So I remember calling the Babalao, and he's like, no, you're reading into it too much. It didn't say you were going to lose your job. It just said you have to just be careful with it. And I'm like, dude, I'm losing my job. I'm going to lose my job. So I remember at that point, I was very heavy into crystals. So I would carry this amethyst in my hand everywhere I go. And maybe placebo effect, but I felt this amethyst was doing something for me. So I remember driving to my job on that Monday, and I'm holding this amethyst, and I remember talking to 𝘃cie, and I'm like, I don't know what you have planned for me right now. I know that whatever it is for the greater good, but I ask you to please give me the strength to get through this right now, because if I'm gonna lose my job, I'm gonna be homeless, I'm not gonna be able to take care of my kids. I don't know what's going on. So I get there, and I lose my job. They're like, fortunately, we have to do a budget cut, but they gave me a severance package, which was great. I was able to come and sustain another month or two. So I lose my job, and I call my parents, and I'm like, they're living in West Palm at this point. And I'm like, I'm probably gonna have to move in with you at 40 years old. I'm gonna have to move in because I don't have a job. I'm not gonna be able to take care of the bills. I'm a single mom at this point. I have 2 kids in high school. Like, I'm not gonna be able to take care of these bills on unemployment. So they're like, you know what? You come and stay with us. You come and stay with us. And I lost everything. Baba, I had to leave the apartment. I had to leave all my furniture. I couldn't take anything. I had probably 10 cents in my bank account. Like, to this day, I'm actually grateful that it happened. But going through that moment, I couldn't believe what was happening. And I didn't understand what was happening at that time, but I understand now. They had to make me hit rock bottom to have faith and belief, to know that there's a light at the tunnel. So I lose my job. I go to my parents' home. I'm living with them for 3 months. I get another reading, and I remember in the reading as well, Maferefuno Batala, because he teaches me a lot of harsh lessons as well. And I don't know why I listen to him now, I promise, but before I didn't. So Batala tells me, you're going to have an argument with an older gentleman with gray hair. And if you allow yourself to fall victim and argue back, I'm going to punish you. So I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but all right, I'll take heed to it. I'll listen to it. So I move in with my parents, and me and my dad get into this really heated argument probably 2 weeks into living there. Now, mind you, Baba, I've been living on my own for all these years. Now I'm moving back under my parents' roof. My parents they're set in their ways. We clash a little bit. So we have an argument. I go to Whole Foods to eat something, and Batala punishes me. I'm throwing up all day long, the entire day. So that's why I was like, okay, so now we really need to start paying attention and listening to what they're telling you in these readings, because they're not joking. They have something for you, and you need to listen to what they're saying. So I get to Florida. The company that laid me off actually had a position open in West Palm. So I get my same job back, just in a different state.
Nice.
Look at God, right? So at that point, I work for a builder. I'm not selling homes, I'm an assistant. 3 months later, they have an opening to be able to be an agent and sell homes. All I have to do is get my real estate license. I did that. That changed my entire life. My salary quadrupled from being a single mom to quadrupling my salary. And then that's where the money came from to be able to do my crowning ceremony.
Well, talk about a roller coaster. You know,
Yeah.
I tell you, everybody has one of those stories. I mean, especially when you're going through hardship, and you know the Lukumi system is very elaborate, so the initiation rites are costly, and you know coming up with them, everybody's got a story. You know, some we can tell, some we can't tell. But I tell you, the majority of the time, it's a roller coaster, like you explained. So, you know, by the grace of Orisha, you were able to come up with the funds. You went through your Orisha process. You know, you got your confirmations, your information, your life reading, etc. What was your year in white like? Being
My
that you just
year
got
in
out of it.
white, my year in white was beautiful. But no one explained to me also that that year you're going to be tested. So that year I was tested. I was definitely tested, and what I learned within that year was that my patience was tested. I've learned to be patient, and also that there were opening doors and closing doors at the same time. So the first 3 months were very difficult for me. I thought it was gonna be a piece of cake. Nobody told me. I thought it was like, oh, butterfly roses, like you're gonna crown and everything that you've ever wanted in life is gonna come to you. Like this is what I'm thinking. I'm like, this is gonna be a breeze. I don't really go out like that, so it doesn't matter that I have to be home by a certain time. But it affected me. I couldn't look at myself in a mirror for a very long time. I was sitting on the floor eating like a baby, like a child. I had no hair on my head. For the first 3 months, I cried every day at home. I cried. But I believe that that had to happen because I was purging a lot of my old self at that time, and that was needed. But during my year in white, the discipline that I exhibited and the habitual rituals that came out of being a Yawo were the greatest gifts that I've received. I learned patience. I've learned to believe in myself. I also developed, and this circles back to the reading that Yemaya was going to drive me crazy. I developed being a medium. So that was a whole nother animal that I had to kind of get adjusted to. So I became, not became, I guess the portal opened up and allowed me to become a medium and tap in and speak to spirits and other entities. So I have that going on as well as being a Yabo. And then the last 3 months of being a Yabo, a whole nother series of events take place where that kind of threw me for a loop, but it was also the best thing that ever happened as well, because I firmly believe that Elegua definitely opens up doors and closes doors for specific reasons, and some doors that were closed needed to be closed for the doors that are opening up right now to be open. And that's me sitting here speaking on my story with you, Baba.
So going through the year in white, what was the hardest thing you had to give up, in your opinion, that took you to that emotional state? What was the most? Because Orisha breaks you down before it builds you back up. So what was the one thing that you're like, oh my God, this is really happening. I can't do this. Maybe something you identified with. What was the hardest part about your year?
The hardest part about my year was the first 3 months not being to see myself.
Wow.
I had to learn to live through seeing how others saw me. And it was actually beautiful. I was received so beautifully, Baba, that it was blowing my mind. Mind you, I'm in real estate. I sell homes. I refuse to wear a wig. I didn't want to wear a wig the first 3 months. I was like, no, I want to actually be in my true essence, and I don't want to steer away from the entire experience. So I wore a turban on my head every day for the first 3 months. And it was almost like bees to honey. I started attracting a client base that knew of Ifa, that knew of Lukumi, and knew that I was Yawo, and they were saluting me and telling me how beautiful I looked and how I'm glowing and just my presence itself. And that right there for me taught me that vanity really means nothing at the end of the day. It doesn't matter how you look physically. It's the energy and the frequency that you're emitting to others that's what's received. And at that point, I was emitting nothing but pure love and intent, and people were receiving it, and I was attracting that back.
No, that's beautiful. Now that you've gone through your year in white, I mean, which one are you kind of leaning more towards as far as your study and growth? Are you leaning more towards like the spiritism, mediumship, even though you got all that development through the year to a large degree? Or are you now delving more into like Orisha, learning the room, maybe the shell? Which one's kind of grabbing more of your attention now that you've got out of your year in white?
All of it.
Nice.
All of it. Right now, because of you, I'm actually being mentored by Freddie with my
Nice.
medium gifts. So I attend a lot of misas with him. I want to learn how to divinate through the shells. I want to learn how to divinate through tarot. I practice tarot on myself, but I haven't done it for others. I also want to work the room, not to speak too much into Maita, but it has been prophesized that I am going to have a lot of godchildren. I'm supposed to work the religion. I am going to be an excellent medium, 𝗃𝗶𝗍𝗍, and that at some point I will have my own establishment running a spiritual metaphysical shop. So right now I am literally like a sponge, and whoever it is that wants to come out and help me, mentor me, teach me, I'm willing to receive that and embrace it, because that's where I am right now.
Beautiful, beautiful. You know, you mentioned your kids, you mentioned your sisters. It's easy to see you're a very family oriented person, like, you know, most Latin people as we are. How important is it, you know, because you mentioned the legacy, you know, how important is it to ultimately, you know, impart Ifa upon your children, establish a home within the spirituality so they can get all of those benefits? What does that mean to you?
That means a lot to me. And right now for me, it's a little tricky because my children didn't grow up into Ifa and what I'm practicing.
Mm-hmm.
They're seeing it right now through the change in my life. So they're 20 and 22. I didn't get initiated. Probably it's been a year as a high priestess, and then in Ifa 4 years. So I would love for them at some point to receive their warriors and at least have, you know, their kofa, mano de rula, but I also have to allow them the grace to have their own choice. But what they do understand is that it has changed my life. It has changed my sister's lives. It actually has brought my family so much closer, especially my year in white. Like my family came out and they showed out for me in a way that I never thought they were going to. I didn't, the way my parents received it, even my mom found out who her guardian angel is now. Like it's just,
Wow.
it's beautiful what it's doing for my family, but I want my children to come in at their own time. But the beauty about that is that being that I'm a high priestess, I still can kind of help and protect my children in certain aspects, but I'm also not going to alter their destiny, and I'm
Sure.
going to allow life to happen. But I'm going to be there to cushion them when things do occur. And maybe sometimes I might help them maneuver around it. Who knows how serious the situation is? But I want them to have the liberty and the free will to say, hey, mom, I've seen what this has done for your life and for your sisters, and now I'm ready. And that's when it'll come full circle, I feel.
No, I think that's a great concept because we as parents, you know, even though we know what has worked best for us and we just want to give that to our children so they can have those same benefits at the same time, we have to allow them to come to those conclusions whether they do what we did or go the other route, as long as it's positive and as long as we're able to help them and protect them as much as possible as they progress through life. That's really all we can ask for. I ask you, what is the greatest lesson Ifa has taught you? What's the biggest impact it's had upon you now, having gone through all these phases as you move forward?
With faith and belief, you can move mountains. That's what
Nice.
Ifas taught. Faith and belief. Faith and belief, faith and belief. That's all I can say. There has been times where I question it, and then literally like yesterday, driving to the hotel and seeing that 555 and seeing the lights that were yellow and green, like those messages. And I get a lot of prophetic messages through my dreams, and I know what faith and belief is now. And that video that I watched where he was talking about that stick resonates. And as long as I have faith and belief, I know that my life is going to be as planned, and I have a purpose now in life. And Ifa has given me a purpose, and it's given me discipline.
Beautiful. What's next for Omi Yoko?
The world. What's next for me? I'm just looking forward to continuing to grow in the spiritual community, continue to develop my mediumship, work hard on establishing a spiritual place so that I can have people come in and I'll be able to just share all this beautiful information, this love, and just help to heal the world. Like, all I want to do is just spread the word of Ifa and love to everyone, and just heal those that are in need of healing. Because when I heal those, I heal myself, I heal my family, I heal my bloodline.
Really beautiful. Jen, we really appreciate the conversation. I think your story has been a very full one, you know, to come from where you've come from, go through the hardship, invest, take that leap of faith, go through even more hardship to now come to this place of fulfillment and ultimately prosperity as you move forward in your spiritual career. I think 𝗃𝗏𝗍 and Yemoja and Egun have great prospects for you, and we sincerely appreciate the opportunity and your interest in being on the pod. And you know, if you have any final words for our community, your community, you're more than welcome now to express them.
Before we do that, hold on.
Oh Lord, Phil,
Hold
you
on.
feel scared. You scared
So Jen actually sent me several photos. So I want to go over some of these photos, and if you have a story behind any of the photos, please tell us a story. Okay?
Definitely.
Yes, absolutely.
All right.
So that's me at the beach with 𝘃𝗶𝗱𝗁. As I said,
Nice.
anyone that knows me knows that he goes everywhere with me. And at
He's
that
cute.
time, isn't he?
He's a
So at
cute
that
issue.
time, I was getting ready to go into 𝗃𝗏𝗍𝗁, and I needed that one last beach moment. So I took him with me to the beach, and we had a cigar and we had a nice long talk.
Nice.
This is me. Every year on New Year's, I go to the beach and I give offerings to my queen, my 𝗃𝗏𝗍𝗁 Yemaya. So that's a picture of me New Year's Day with my watermelon, my molasses, and my flowers for her.
That's a sunset, man. Wow.
And there goes her offerings as well: molasses, watermelon, and flowers.
Nice.
That's me. That's actually I had just received my warrior, so you can see how clean 𝘃𝗶𝗍𝗁 is.
Oh yeah, he's much darker now.
Yeah, it was actually Yemaya's feast day, so I went and I took her a watermelon to the beach.
Nice.
And those are my offerings where I like to just take pictures. And
What beach is that? That water's nice.
Yeah, so that's it's called Municipal Beach in West Palm. It's gorgeous.
Yeah, they take care of it. Look at the shells. Oh.
Yep. So there we go. Now we got some special time before she says bye. I want to do some shout outs, okay?
Let me hear that elevator music, Phil.
Here
Give
we
it to
go.
me. That's what we do it for.
All right, guys, thank you for watching the show. But before we get out of here, we got some special shout outs to all the members of our YouTube channel. And if you are not a member, just go ahead and
get in there.
Tap that join button right directly under the video. So let me give a shout out to here. We got VIP members. We got Omo Elegua.
Hey, Omo
We
Elegua.
got Kathy Marty.
Hey, mijala bendiciones.
We got Lulu Sprandell.
Hey, Lou.
And Yoruba.
Yoruba, thank you.
And shout out to our super fans. We got Frankie Salto.
Frankie.
Eddie Brown.
Eddie.
Kenya Hutton.
Kenya, thank you.
And Gilly84.
Hey, Gil, what's up?
There we go. Okay, so sorry. Go ahead, Joseph.
Our Roots Podcast. Until next time, see the light, guys.
Well, hold on. She got to give her final words.
I'm sorry. I didn't know. It's just, the elevator music just puts me in such a conclusion, a rate. Please, Jen, don't let me take the stage. Please, last words.
Thank you. The only thing I want to emit out to the world right now is to live by love and not by fear, and always have faith and belief. And with that, everything will turn out fine. So thank you so much. I'm so honored, so blessed for being a part of this podcast. And I look forward to many more episodes with you, Baba.
𝘃𝗶𝗍𝗁. Take care, guys.